possible. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Agree to disagree, because I will never agree with that.
Well,
here we are for the set of this pool. This pool's definitely lived up to the hype as we were going into it today. And this is going to have seismic impacts on the final bracket here. Winner of this gets to avoid the gauntlet stage entirely as the 1 seed out of the pool.
Yeah. For those of you at least who don't know, all number 1 seeds in the pools, they get to skip to the final bracket tomorrow as a top seed. That is just how it goes. So now this is basically a battle for who will have to play earlier in the day. And we heard from the man himself about what his thoughts are going into this match, and he pointed at the idea of a Puff. I see a Kazuya though.
He felt it was all Kazuya from what he said. So.
Yeah. Look, I believed in the slight possibility. I like seeing good Puff. I was a Puff main in 4 back before I was a Yoshi player.
That's a horrible choice.
I know. I thought that Puff in 4, I didn't have any idea about the meta. I thought they were as good as they were in previous games. And Puff was good in Melee, so yeah.
Now what about Brawl, huh? What about Brawl?
I don't even want to talk about Brawl. I want to talk about this game now as we're getting into Tasabu versus Galleon. Last game of this pool number 3.
Yeah, getting the PS2 here. Galleon is getting off to a hot start with those Kazuya combos, but as we've seen in some of these earlier sets, Tasabu is so good at getting his defense set up once he has an understanding of how you're trying to conduct your offense.
Yeah, and it feels like finally, Galleon got his initial damage, and now suddenly it's been the whole Tasabu show as he's able to keep, Galleon at his ledge. And we're also seeing, we kind of talked to both these players in the time since they came after they won a set on stream. We're seeing a lot more of the Ram coming out from the Tasabu as he's happy to keep Galleon at that ledge.
And that's why you want to keep him there, is because that Rage Drive will come through and even things back up immediately. And that down air coming through once again, but Minmin going to live to see another day. Going and challenging offstage again is Galleon. I love to see that. You don't see Kazuya offstage edgeguarding too often, but you have to against Minmin.
You want to exploit every weakness of every character as much as you can. And did you just weave through that, jumping backward?
It was a RAR jump, tomahawk into dash-up jab past the arms. Incredible stuff that you wouldn't expect from Galleon on the Kazuya. But Tasabu is going to respond immediately and keep things even as far as stock count.
This Kazuya is innovating in real time. We're seeing ledge trumps, we're seeing tomahawks in reverse.
RAR tomahawk especially.
That is devious. Now there's the Ram Nair. He's going to send Galleon off stream. He does manage to get through the second arm, though, so he was able to get a little bit of extra damage, but now he's just trying to get back to that center Pokeball. He wants to get himself back supplanted onto the stage.
And just continues to attack on this damage, hit by hit, arm by arm, and that Megawatt is out to finish things off. But Galleon does have Rage Drive back in hand. He needs to land, he needs to reset and find that command grab, but so far Tasabu is not giving him the opening.
Tasabu's defense at this point to just block Galleon out has been so good. When Galleon gets put onto the ledge, Tasabu is like a fine-oiled machine, just able to keep Galleon, keep this man at the ledge away from the noodle arms.
Again, talking about having your feet planted on the Pokeball, doing it once again there. So whenever Galleon does get those meaningful hits, they're few and far in between because he's usually just getting a small hit here and there, but finally getting a big one there, so that's going to even things back up for Galleon.
He's able to get a little bit of damage, a little bit of a links. He actually able to get that off of the Nair. Triple jab, able to get through, and now a little bit of damage. But now this could spell the end for Tasabu if Galleon is able to get that extra electric. And he's looking for it right now. Tasabu, though, perfectly happy to say, I do not want you to touch me. Keep as far away from me as humanly possible.
Also doing a good job, though, of staying out of range where he can continue to apply pressure without just completely retreating. And that's where you're seeing why he was playing at that safe space, because as soon as Galleon got that big hit, that was the end of game 1.
It's those big hits, and I mean, pretty unorthodox ways, at least I've seen, Galleon get these kills. For Kazuya, we were freaking out about that RAR tomahawk.
Which isn't the biggest deal in the world, but as far as Kazuya is concerned, it's definitely nice to see something fresh, something different. As far as, pushing a character, that's how you get a character that is at the top higher. Yeah. Because the character has such strong strengths, but if you don't round out the character, people are going to learn how to play around those strengths.
A character's toolkit is like, larger than individual moves. It's the sum of those pieces all getting together. And how you interact with the stage, as we're running it though right back to PS2. I feel like this feels like the kind of set and the kind of like, characters where we're going to be here for the whole time.
It's very, very likely going to go back and forth. This can also cascade. It can avalanche if Galleon goes up 2-1 or 2-0 just because of the momentum that you can experience as Kazuya. But Tasabu just seems like the master of stemming momentum. The way he is able to play defense and, force his opponent to SD on the ledge, no one else does it like Tasabu.
No one does it like Tasabu.
Sheer aura forcing the SD on the ledge.
Tasabu, my favorite Wisconsin player, as now Galleon is able to get a little bit off this electric. Not able to get as much as I assume that he'd want, but I mean, let's be real here. This is Kazuya. He wants you dead to rights.
Yeah, just continues to find those jab 1-2-3s in the corner to seal out those stocks, but a very consistent stock cleaner finisher for Galleon. And that's why he's still in this game, going to move back into here, but does not get the drag down Nair potentially to finish off that stock early.
Yeah, he's not going to get that drag down there, but I mean, still, this is good percentage. This is potentially one reset away from spelling the end of Tasabu's second stock, because now, though, we have Galleon back at the ledge. He does manage to actually weave through. He gets the Nair, and not able to get it. Oh,
Gonna use the dash with the invincibility on it to armor through the landing option from Tasabu. That's gonna be the end of that second stock. Tasabu has been in the corner once again. That Megawatt is in hand. An up B coming through to force Galleon to the ledge. Just needs to find that one more strong hit.
Yeah, but Tasabu wants to get up dodge. He does not want. He wants to get as far away from Galleon right now as possible, because I don't know if that Rage Drive would potentially spell the end of Tasabu's stock, or if he can even make it back from that low of a position. But now, the Ram-Rams are coming back out. They're sending Galleon far enough to where he can't get back to the ledge necessarily as comfortably as he'd want to.
Galleon's sitting with a full tank of Rage right now, finally going to be able to do something with it. On the platform, drag down, but just going to use that up tilt to stymie the combo. But more damage coming through, misses the dash on the follow-up. But another down smash coming through for Tasabu. Continues to find success using it.
Those down smashes have been helping so well for Tasabu, but it's not going to get you out of electric. It does a lot. It doesn't do everything, though.
There's only so much you can do to escape those Kazuya conversions, especially with a character as poor of a disadvantage as Min. Very mediocre aerial mobility, does not have great get-off-me options except for that down air and a nair, but playing around it really well. Did we just go to Omega Castle Siege?
I love when we go to, like, Final Destinations aside from Final Destination.
I thought there was, like, a specific list of those that you should go to because they don't, like, the stage doesn't change at all.
And ironically enough, I thought that Castle Siege was not one of those, or maybe
it's not, because you can't go under the stage on this stage, like you can on standard FD.
Either way, we're here on Final Destination as both these players, like, perfectly happy to just, like, get their linkages, and they're happy to, like, get back to their typical game plan, because Tasabu is happy to, like, not let Galleon get another escape option to get back from ledge, and Galleon is perfectly happy to just get his normal Nair linkages off these electrics.
Really, what this does is it minimizes the amount of options that Galleon has to get in on Tasabu. He doesn't have those platforms to avoid the arms on, so Tasabu can just force the issue. Oh, there isn't a bottom to it. Okay, never mind. I'm wrong. But regardless, thanks to that early stopping tank from Galleon, we got to see that this is a normal Omega, and Tasabu gained that early lead that he hasn't really been able to find too often in this set.
I mean, Galleon was giving us, like, a quick view of just, like, the whole stage, and Tasabu is perfectly happy to just take Galleon across the whole stage. Another fiery Ram-Ram. Galleon doesn't have a jump, but Ram-Ram is going to be missing as he does manage to weave through, get past that Megawatt.
At those high percents with the grabs aren't going to convert into a combo, so Galleon needs to make the most of this Rage Drive, but Tasabu's defense has been so consistent, continues to trap these landings from Galleon, but just barely holding on to this Rage Drive.
I'm going to say it. I think the MVP right now for this, like, set, especially for this game, has been Min dashback. It has been getting Tasabu the advantage state against Galleon so many times and preventing from Galleon from getting those typical electrics that he'd want to really seal out the stock at this point.
Can you call it an MVP of a set you're down 2-0 in?
I think you could call it. It's your most valuable player. It's what's really
It's the
getting
most
you the
valuable. I could be losing worse. But still, it's going great in this game 3. He's up 3 stocks to 1. The stage pick has been fantastic for Tasabu. But it's just really, Galleon has not been able to reset. You're so used to FD being fantastic for Kazuya, but Tasabu is showing why he counterpicked here.
Yeah. Look, I will always believe at least like the players and their stage choices, and it's been hard and fast rule don't take Kazuya to FD. But I mean, if you can 3-stock Kazuya on FD, I think it's a pretty good choice, all things considered.
You asked me before the set, yeah, it's currently 2-1. The only game that Tasabu has won on FD, I'd be like, what? And that's where I always... Counterpicks are this kind of double-edged sword where it's you have to play to your own strengths, but you also have to consider your opponent's and your character's strengths. And this is one where understanding that your strengths are better in the matchup. So having that awareness is really, really important for Tasabu to stay alive in this set.
It's also a matter of comfortability and just changing the tempo a little bit. As changing the tempo, we're going to Kalos.
First time I've seen Kalos all day today.
I saw a little bit of Kalos just on the side stream, but what do you think at least about this in comparison to FD?
It gives Galleon more options to get off the ledge at the very least, and it lets him do combos for a lot longer in the middle of the stage, but it also gives Tasabu that same layout that he had in the previous game where there's just a lot of space with not a lot of platforms in the middle of it, so it makes it a lot harder for Galleon to generate offense in the middle of the stage.
I'm curious how he's going to be using those platforms, because it feels like those platforms are a little too high if you want to use those platforms aggressively, but defensively like that, where you can weave in and around, I think that's what Galleon's kind of going for in this game number 4.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about being edge guarded on this stage as much. You get a little bit more stall factor off stage, especially with those long bottom blast zones, but already at 114%, going to use that laser just as a get off me option. And this is a scary situation, but Tasabu going to come out on top with that up smash.
He's coming out on top. He does use a little bit of that F smash, as now Galleon will take that to the bank. He's gonna seal out that stock.
Cashing in on that conversion that he desperately needed. Was down basically half a stock there. Still gets to keep that rage drive. It is gonna be knocked away, but Galleon just making the most of that opening that he finally got.
You have to use any sort of opportunity you can get in when you get in on a defensive character like Min Min, and Galleon proving this is why I'm the top seed in my pool. This is why.
Tasabu's the top seed in his pool.
I forgot. Tasabu said that Galleon should be the top seed, or they should be higher.
Yeah, we were talking even going into today that Galleon should have been a 4 or 5 seed. There were some regional conflicts they were trying to avoid in pools, just with people playing each other. And you're seeing why people thought Galleon should have been seeded higher. He's on the verge of an upset here on the 3 seed. Got a nice Kazuya conversion coming through once again, and that's going to be another stock for Galleon.
I didn't even think you can get the first tech on those Kalos platforms. I thought they were too high, but Galleon proving the naysayers, me wrong. That's a Ram Nair, and Tasabu perfectly happy to keep Galleon off this side of the stage, but not able to fully capitalize as now Galleon able to get back in a little bit. But now it does seem like, Tasabu, he's playing a lot more in the center stage. He's perfectly happy to let Galleon have that platform, as long as he can't get any additional combos, get any additional linkages with the electric.
Just going to use that Megawatt a couple times to knock away that Rage Drive and knock Galleon onto his last stock here in this game 4. Galleon trying to close this out and book his ticket into avoiding that Gauntlet stage. Let's see if he gets it here with another long Kazuya combo. That's not quite going to kill because that higher blast zone on Kalos.
Yeah, but that's a side beat. This opened up a grab for Tasabu. Now we have the powered up arms. And now, who knows what could happen? There's so many things that could happen. I mean, I'm at a loss for words.
Just trying to find that last hit is Galleon. Tasabu just trying to nickel and dime his way back into this game. He needs to avoid a land-in from Galleon. This is a great opportunity for Tasabu. Has him off stage, but he is going to make it back to the ledge.
And yeah, nicely, Galleon trying to make use out of these crouch dashes. Use that invincibility to get in, get the one hit, and get the kill, as he will seal that out 3-1. And I'm pretty sure that does solidify Galleon as the number 1 player in his pool.
Yeah, he swept the pool with that win. So Galleon playing super, super well. There has not been a set that's been a 3-0 so far in that pool.
I feel like that's what we expected for that pool, though.
Yeah, it 100% was. That pool lived up to the hype. Everyone played really well. Every set was very competitive. So, going to end up with the standings, I believe, being Galleon number 1, Tasabu number 2, Danila number 3, and Fuyo number 4. We just need to confirm who. It really comes down to who wins that Danila Fuyo set.